But when I heard about Little Marvin, who is this director, writer, just genius.
They called her the queen of action movies. But behind the cameras, Pam Grier was fighting battles no one knew about. At 6, she was attacked by boys who should have protected her. At 18, it happened again. Then Hollywood producers tried to buy her body for movie roles. She fought them all off. But in 1988, her greatest enemy wasn't a person. It was growing inside her. And the way she got sick would expose a secret that rocked Hollywood forever. Pam Grier was born on May 26, 1949, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Her mom, Gwendolyn, worked as a nurse, and her dad, Clarence, was in the Air Force. Because of his job, the family kept moving all the time. It made Pam feel like she never had a real home. In 1956, when she was just 7, they moved all the way to Swindon, England. It was a strange new world, but Pam noticed something surprising. The kids there didn't hate her for being black. She said later, they were raised to hate Germans, not us. That moment stayed with her. In 1958, the family came back to America and settled near Denver, Colorado. But life here was not kind. When Pam was just 6 years old, a nightmare happened that would scar her forever. She was visiting her aunt's house in Swink, Colorado. There, she was cornered and attacked by several older boys, including her cousin. They took her into a laundry room and raped her. A phone repairman walked in during the assault and scared the boys away, then quietly went on fixing the phone like nothing had happened. Pam never forgot that. She said it turned her from a happy little girl into someone afraid of the world. She started to stutter. She told no one for years because she felt ashamed. At 18, it happened again. She was date raped, and the pain she buried deep inside came flooding back. She wouldn't speak about any of this until she wrote her memoir decades later. In the early 1960s, Pam faced another cruel reality: American racism. Back in England, people barely noticed her skin color. But in Denver, everything was different. Buses wouldn't stop for them. Restaurants turned them away. Pam once tried to enter a swimming pool and was told it was for whites only. Even in 1969, she and her father couldn't try on clothes in certain stores. It was clear they weren't welcome, but Pam came from strong roots. Her mother's family had escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad and found freedom in Wyoming. That history of survival gave Pam strength, and it later helped shape the powerful roles she chose in movies. At 18, in 1967, Pam entered the Miss Colorado Universe pageant. She did it not for fame, but to help pay for college. She was studying at Metropolitan State College and needed the money. She didn't win first place, but she did land as one of the top finalists. That alone was a big deal for a mixed-race girl at the time. More importantly, someone at the pageant noticed her and gave her a contact in Hollywood. That's how she got her first agent. Not long after, she was singing backup for Stevie Wonder and Sly Stone. She even watched Jimi Hendrix record. That year, she packed her things and moved to Los Angeles. But life in LA wasn't glamorous. It was hard. She didn't have money. She didn't have connections. So she lied her way into a job at a casting agency switchboard and learned the phone system on the spot. She worked multiple jobs just to survive. She was a hostess, a receptionist, even a nude model for art students. She sometimes ate one meal a day and slept only a few hours each night. Between 1967 and 1970, she worked more than 40 different jobs. She was doing everything just to stay afloat while chasing her dreams. Back in Denver, school had been painful for Pam because she was mixed: Black, Hispanic, Filipino, Chinese, and Cheyenne. She didn't look like anyone else. Kids bullied her, called her names, even hit her. So she took self-defense classes. She trained in martial arts, not just to fight back, but to feel strong again. Those skills later became part of who she was on screen. She wasn't pretending to be tough in movies, she really was. In 1968, at just 19, she made a bold decision. She called that Hollywood agent from the pageant and said she was ready. With only $200 in her pocket, she moved into a tiny 200-square-foot apartment with 2 other girls. Her first acting job came as an uncredited extra in the cult film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which came out in 1970. She earned just $25, but spent those long days watching and learning from the real actors. It became her acting school, but the system wasn't built for someone like her. In 1969 and 1970, she was only offered roles that played up stereotypes: tribes women, exotic villains, background dancers. The money was bad, and the roles were worse. Everything changed in early 1970 when producer Roger Corman saw her at a party. He was struck by her height and strength. He offered her a role in a new film called The Big Dollhouse. Pam knew it was her chance. She trained hard, doing hours of martial arts and weapons practice. She even gained 15 pounds of muscle. This time, she was ready. But just as things were looking up, disaster struck. That same year, she was invited to a meeting with a big Hollywood producer. He told her flat out, "Sleep with me, or you don't get the part." Pam refused. He tried to assault her, and she had to physically fight him off. She thought about quitting, going back to Denver, leaving Hollywood behind, but she didn't. She stayed. That fire inside her only grew stronger. Every role after that was a way for her to fight back. In 1971, her role in The Big Dollhouse became a surprise hit. It made $10 million at the box office, even though it was filmed for just $125,000. She played a tough inmate who did her own stunts, including a mud wrestling scene that had to be filmed over 3 days in knee-deep water after a storm destroyed the set. Roger Corman admitted the film turned out sexier and more raw than planned, but it was a smash hit. It launched both Pam and a whole new genre of women in prison films. That same year, she played a sadistic warden in Women in Cages. It was brutal and controversial. She tortured other characters in scenes that pushed the limits of what audiences could handle. Pam later said she didn't feel proud of those nude scenes. She felt tricked, used, but the role made her unforgettable. People couldn't take their eyes off her. In 1972, she starred in The Big Bird Cage. She played a rebel planning a prison escape using real guerrilla tactics taught by former fighters in the Philippines. The action scenes were intense and sometimes dangerous. In one scene, a prisoner was crushed under a bamboo mill. Everything about the film felt real because parts of it were. Pam wasn't just acting. She was doing her own stunts and using real training. In 1973, she starred in Scream, Blackula, Scream. She played a voodoo priestess named Lisa who could cure a vampire's curse. Pam fought to make the character strong, not just another scared woman in a horror film. She refused to do nude scenes and demanded the voodoo elements be treated with respect. Even though the vampire still had most of the power in the story, Pam's character stood her ground. That same year, Pam Grier became a legend. In Coffee, she played a nurse who turned into a vigilante after her sister was destroyed by drugs. The film made $2 million and only cost $125,000 to make. Pam came up with one of the film's wildest moments herself. She hid razor blades in her afro and used them during a fight scene. It was shocking, raw, and unforgettable. That one scene became a symbol of everything Pam represented: bold, fearless, and unstoppable. She wasn't just playing a hero, she was one. Pam Grier never played it safe. In 1974, when Foxy Brown hit theaters, people weren't ready for what they saw. One scene in particular stopped audiences cold. Her character didn't just get revenge, she made sure it hurt. After the man who killed her boyfriend was caught, Pam's character ordered something brutal. She had him castrated. Then she delivered what was left of him to his girlfriend in a glass jar. It wasn't a stunt done by someone else. Pam choreographed the whole thing herself. She wanted it to feel real. It worked. That scene helped Foxy Brown earn around $4 million. But more than that, it rewrote what women could be in action films. She wasn't a victim. She was the one people feared. That same year, she filmed The Arena, where she played a female gladiator. She trained with real swords, took hits, got bruises, and kept going. During one wild chariot chase, she got hurt. But Pam wasn't the kind of actress who ran from pain. She leaned into it. The movie was made for just $75,000 and was the second time she worked with Margaret Markov. It wasn't just a movie. It was proof Pam could survive anything, even in ancient Rome. In 1975, she starred in Sheba, Baby. She used her real karate skills to play a private detective fighting the mob. But even with all that action, the film didn't do well. People were starting to turn away from blaxploitation films. Critics called it Pam Grier light because it didn't have the edge or violence of Foxy Brown. It felt too clean, too safe. That's not what people wanted from her. Later that same year, Friday Foster came out. Pam did her own driving during a wild car chase. She played a photographer turned detective who finds herself in the middle of an assassination plot. The movie wasn't just about thrills. It had something to say. It showed how black leaders were being targeted. It talked about unity and the future. It was her last movie with American International Pictures. She wasn't just using guns anymore. She was using her brain, too. Also in 1975, she played Aretha in Bucktown. She fought back against corrupt cops in a small town. There was one moment during filming where she improvised a line about women's rights. It wasn't in the script, but it hit so hard with test audiences that they kept it in. It showed how powerful Pam's presence was. Even when she wasn't reading from the script, her words mattered. That movie became one of her last big hits before the blaxploitation era faded out. Then things took a turn. In 1981, she played a completely different role in Fort Apache, the Bronx. She was Charlotte, a drug-addicted prostitute who kills police officers. It was dark and unsettling. She shared the screen with Paul Newman, who made $3 million and 15% of the profits for the film. Pam's part was small but unforgettable. Critics called her creepy. That role showed she could go deep and dark, but it also started to typecast her as broken women instead of heroes. In 1983, she joined a Disney film called Something Wicked This Way Comes. She played the Dust Witch. But Disney panicked after test audiences didn't like it. They spent $4 million redoing the movie. Pam's scenes got cut down or removed entirely. The film missed its release date by 5 months. Disney was nervous about showing a black woman in a fantasy role. They blamed the audience. But the truth was, Hollywood didn't want women like Pam in magical stories. It was heartbreaking. Between 1985 and 1989, she found a new home on television. On Miami Vice, she played Valerie Gordon, a New York detective. She brought real-life experience to the role, thanks to her military upbringing and her family's background. She wasn't just acting tough, she understood it. Her storylines were raw, often involving her missing sister and crooked diplomats. She showed strength and vulnerability at the same time. That role helped keep her career alive during a difficult stretch. During this time, she also started directing theater at UCLA. She worked under Roman Polanski, trying to learn everything she could. She staged an all-black version of Frankie and Johnny, hoping to show the world that black actors belonged in every kind of story. The reviews were mixed, but Pam didn't care. She was learning how to take control. Her love life had always been painful. In the early 1970s, she dated Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he was still called Lou Alcindor. He wanted her to convert to Islam, wear a hijab, and give up her independence. She refused. They broke up in 1973. Later, in 1973, she met Freddie Prinze. He was 19 and already a huge star, but he was unstable. In 1977, he called her before he took his life. She tried to stop him, but he hung up. Hours later, he was dead. She never stopped feeling guilty. Then came Richard Pryor. They started dating in 1975. He was charming and brilliant, but his cocaine use was out of control. During a doctor's visit, Pam discovered something horrifying. There was cocaine residue inside her body. It had come from him. She confronted him. He didn't take it seriously. She left him in 1976, but it didn't end there. In 1980, while visiting the Stir Crazy set, she found him freebasing cocaine. She begged him to stop. He refused. A few months later, he caught fire during another freebasing accident. She wasn't surprised. She had seen it coming. She also had a short fling with Wilt Chamberlain. Years later, he mentioned their encounter in his book, claiming to have slept with 20,000 women. He shared private details without her permission. She was furious. She called it exploitation. No one asked how she felt being named in a list like that. In 1988, Pam Grier was 39 years old, and at the height of her career, she was fit, active, and lived a healthy life. She ran 6 miles every day, didn't eat meat, and stayed away from drugs and alcohol. She thought everything was going right. She was planning her future, looking at homes, thinking about marriage and children. Then, one phone call changed everything. What she believed was a routine checkup turned into something terrifying. Doctors told her she had stage 4 cervical cancer. Not stage 1 or 2, but stage 4. They gave her 16 to 18 months to live. She was handed a giant folder filled with medical papers and told to start preparing her will. They couldn't even start treatment right away because her body needed time to recover from surgical trauma. She had to sit with that news for 6 weeks while the cancer continued to spread. She didn't stop working. That's what made it even more shocking. She was filming Above the Law with Steven Seagal when she got the diagnosis, but she kept showing up. She never told the crew. She wore wigs, She lost a lot of weight. She kept going through painful chemotherapy, kept performing, kept smiling. Her mom had been a nurse, so Pam used everything she had learned to manage the pain without becoming dependent on opioids. That took enormous strength, but the emotional pain cut even deeper. The man she loved didn't even show up for her first chemo session. Then he disappeared for 5 years, just vanished. She faced the fight of her life completely alone. She later said that cancer teaches you who your real friends are. And in her case, it was a brutal lesson. Things got even worse. In 1990, while she was still battling cancer, her sister Krista died from breast cancer. Pam loved her like a real sister. Krista had worked as a flight attendant, and Pam always believed her cancer was caused by toxic chemicals from years of flying. The pain didn't stop there. Krista's son, Freddie, couldn't handle the grief. He ended his life shortly after losing his mother. Before he died, Freddie had reached out to Pam, but he had made threats, and she was scared. She didn't meet him, and that decision haunted her. When she found out what had happened, she collapsed at a hotel, sobbing as the police surrounded the scene. All of this was happening while Pam herself was still fighting for her life. Then, something unexpected happened. One night in her home in the San Fernando Valley, she was watching PBS. It was a documentary called Healing and the Mind with Bill Moyers. It showed a Chinese woman who had a large tumor on her back. After weeks of acupuncture, herbs, pressure therapy, and meditation, the tumor was gone. Pam took that as a sign. She decided to combine Eastern medicine with her chemotherapy. Her doctor sent her to a Chinese herbalist who gave her special herbs and told her to drink hot tea with her meals to cleanse her body. She added yoga. She followed everything with military discipline. She believed fresh air, clean water, and being surrounded by nature helped her heal. Slowly, her body started fighting back. One day, the doctors told her something no one expected. She was in remission. That was more than 35 years ago, and she's still here. She became an advocate for cancer awareness, pushing for early checkups, and reminding people that miracles can happen when you fight with everything you've got. But the deepest wound wasn't on her body. It was in her heart. Years after surviving cancer, she began therapy. That's when the real truth came out. She had been carrying pain since she was 6 years old. That's when she was sexually assaulted by a group of boys. Then again at 18 by someone she trusted. She never spoke of it before. She kept it all locked inside. But in therapy, it all surfaced. The pain, the fear, the trauma. She had been living with PTSD for decades, and suddenly it made sense. Her tough characters on screen weren't just roles. They were survival. They were her armor. Every strong woman she played was a version of herself, fighting, surviving, protecting what was left of her soul. In her memoir, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts, she explained that the fearless image people loved came from real pain. It was never just acting, it was her truth. In 1996, something big happened for Pam Grier. After years of being stuck in small TV parts and fading film roles, she suddenly showed up in Tim Burton's strange sci-fi comedy, Mars Attacks. She played Louise Williams, a bus-driving mother trying to survive a Martian invasion. She stood beside actors like Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, and Pierce Brosnan. The movie cost $80 million to make and was filmed all over the world from California to Argentina. Even though it didn't make much money, earning only $101 million worldwide, it pulled Pam Grier back into the spotlight after a long time away. That return made something else possible. In 1997, everything changed. That year, Quentin Tarantino wrote a movie just for her. He adapted the novel Rum Punch into Jackie Brown and rewrote the lead role to fit Pam Grier. He didn't want a white actress like in the book, he wanted her, and she delivered. She played a flight attendant who smuggled money between the US and Mexico. But what made her so powerful in the role wasn't just the story. It was the way Tarantino honored her legacy from the 1970s when she ruled screens in Coffee and Foxy Brown. Jackie Brown made $74 million on a $12 million budget, and Pam got nominated for a Golden Globe. The critics loved her. Her co-star Robert Forster even got an Oscar nomination. And just like that, she wasn't forgotten anymore. She was back. In 1998, she kept that momentum going. Showtime launched a series called Lynx, where she played Eleanor Winthrop, the smart and tough head of a political group for children's rights. The show was set in a DC bar and mixed comedy, with serious topics like race, poverty, and justice. Pam brought her real-life activism into the role and made it more than just acting. The show ran until early 2000 and earned 5 nominations. For her, it was another proof she could move between action, drama, and smart comedy without losing her edge. In 1999, she was everywhere. In the teen movie Jawbreaker, she played Detective Vera Cruz, chasing down a high school clique, hiding a deadly secret. The film had a dark tone, but also felt playful, like Heather's. She brought weight to the story, even while the film itself was campy. That same year, she also voiced a talking nightingale in the animated show Happily Ever After. The episode taught kids about inner beauty. It showed that she could still move hearts, even when she wasn't on screen. And then came Holy Smoke, a drama directed by Jane Campion, known for The Piano. Pam shared scenes with Kate Winslet and Harvey Keitel. That film wasn't loud or flashy, but it was deep and artistic. And it showed once again that Pam Grier belonged in serious films. When the 2000s arrived, she didn't slow down. Between 2002 and 2004, she guest starred in Law & Order, SVU, as prosecutor Claudia Williams. Her role wasn't huge, but it was powerful. She earned 2 NAACP nominations for it, showing how much her performance stood out. It was around this time that she took on one of her most emotional TV roles ever. In 2004, The L Word began on Showtime. Pam played Kit Porter, the older sister of Bette Porter. Kit was straight, struggling with alcohol, working in music, and always trying to be the anchor for her sister's group of friends. Over 6 seasons, her story touched on love, sobriety, and heartbreak. One of her most powerful scenes came when she turned down a marriage proposal. She said the people she loved most couldn't even get married legally. That line spoke volumes. Pam played Kit until the show ended in 2009. When the reboot came years later, she couldn't join. She was already busy filming something else. In 2019, she was playing Constance Terry in the comedy Bless This Mess. The show was about a couple moving from New York to rural Nebraska. Pam played the town's sheriff and store owner. She brought humor, charm, and strength to the role. That same year, she also took part in a film that surprised a lot of people. It was called Palms, and she played Olive, a 70-year-old woman joining a cheerleading squad in a retirement community. And yes, she danced. She performed actual cheer routines on screen. Critics said the plot was predictable, but Pam's energy was unforgettable. She showed that age didn't stop her, not at all. Back in 2010, she told her full story in a memoir called Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts. It sold over 100,000 copies and shocked readers. She revealed childhood trauma, including being gang raped at age 6 and sexually assaulted at 18. She also opened up about her relationship with Richard Pryor, describing how his drug use affected her health and her heart. The honesty was painful, but powerful. And because of that book, a biopic titled Pam started moving forward. Jay Farrow was picked to play Richard Pryor after Pam heard his impression and said, "It's Richard." The script, written by Benny Richburg, was described as raw and heartbreaking. At the time, studios were still reviewing it, but the project had already made waves. Even though Jackie Brown earned her 16 award nominations, she never got an Oscar nod. In 2016, IndieWire called her one of the best actors never to have received an Academy Award nomination. That stung, especially when people compared it to John Travolta, who got one for Pulp Fiction. Both were comeback roles in Tarantino films, but only the white actor got honored. Halle Berry once said her career wouldn't have happened without Pam Grier. That says it all. And then there were the fake stories. Some claimed she was banned from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air after a guest role in 1994. It was all lies. She played a character named Janice Robertson and did her job. There was no drama, but the rumors kept spreading in clickbait videos with titles like Pam Grier banned. The truth? She filmed her episodes. She left. That's it. One of the darkest parts of her story came out during the Me Too movement. In 2018, she shared how she rejected Harvey Weinstein back in the 1970s. Long before his fall from power. She had crossed paths with him through Jackie Brown, which Miramax distributed. She later lost a role in a big Amazon series with Robert De Niro and Julianne Moore because the project collapsed under Weinstein's scandal. But she didn't stay silent. She gave TED Talks about surviving cancer and rape. She used her voice to protect others, to warn them, to empower them. Even now, she hasn't faded. In May 2024, at 76 years old, she went on The Jennifer Hudson Show and shared a wild moment from the set of her 2001 film Bones with Snoop Dogg. She smiled and said, "Let me tell you, he can smooch." Then she laughed. Snoop once admitted that meeting her made him faint in the bathroom. That kind of effect never fades. Their friendship has lasted over 2 decades.